A spider drops onto the back of your hand, somewhere in New York City, and before you can shake it off, it bites down. Congratulations, you now have spider powers. But right now, all you have is a red mark on your skin and a walk home that feels longer than usual. By the time you get through the front door, your legs stop holding you up, and you go down onto the floor with your hands catching the tile. A teacher from the trip calls your house. Your parent answers, and a few minutes later, you are carried to your bed. Then, the next several hours pass with your body flat on the mattress and your arms pulled in close, with small shakes running through your legs every few minutes until they stop. You wake up the next morning and reach for the glass of water on your desk. Your fingers close around it, and the glass pulls off the surface. But when you try to set it back down, your hand won't let go. So you shake your arm hard, trying to pull free, and the glass flies sideways across the room and hits the wall with enough force to put a crack in the plaster. You stand there staring at the crack for a second. Then, you press one hand flat against the wall, just to see what happens, and your palm holds there. You press harder, trying to pull away, but the wall holds you like a magnet until you peel each finger back one at a time. Your other hand goes to the wall, higher up. Then your feet find the wall too, and before you have decided to do any of this, you are standing horizontally with the floor 3 feet below you. You stay there for a long moment. Then your foot slips and you drop, catching the windowsill with one hand before you hit the ground. You hang there with the street visible below you, and your hand doesn't let go. Something is very different now. A few weeks pass, and the powers are still completely out of your control. Your strength has no ceiling that you can find yet, and more importantly, it has no floor either. So every ordinary thing you touch becomes a problem. You crush a door handle clean off its plate trying to close your bedroom door, so you have to explain to your parent that you leaned on it wrong. Then, 3 days later, you grip the edge of your desk in class too hard and one corner splits away in your hand. So you push the broken piece back into place and spend the rest of the lesson with both hands flat on your lap, trying to use as little force as possible on everything. To get the strength under control, you need somewhere you can actually push it. So you start sneaking out to a construction site a few blocks away and practicing on the unfinished walls. Within a week, you can crawl a full 6 floors without your hands slipping, jump from one side of an alley to the other, with your legs driving you further than you planned, and land without your knees buckling. That part comes together faster than you expected. But then the other thing starts. It's a pressure at the base of your skull, a tight buzzing that fires about half a second before anything moves near you. A pigeon on a ledge above you launches off the concrete, and your whole body drops into a crouch before you decide to move. That's your spider sense. It's a built-in warning system that fires whenever something is about to reach you. And in a city with millions of people and cars and alarms and construction going off in every direction, it never stops. By the end of the week, your body has pulled you out of a seated position 11 times in a single afternoon, each time for something that turned out to be nothing. You need rest badly, but your own body won't let you have it. Skip forward a few months, and you've built your first set of web shooters. You spent weeks in your room testing different chemical formulas, trying to get the fluid to hold weight without setting too fast or dissolving too soon, and the version you finally land on holds for about an hour before it breaks down. Good enough. You strap the shooters to your wrists, climb to the roof of your building, aim at the wall across the alley, and fire. The line shoots out and sticks, so you grab it with both hands and push off the ledge with your legs driving you forward, and for about 3 seconds you are swinging through the air between 2 buildings in New York City. That's your first swing. It works exactly as well as you hoped. So a week later, when you are up on a rooftop and you watch a man get grabbed from behind and pushed into a wall 2 floors below you on the street, you decide to use them for real. You drop off the ledge, fire a line to pull the attacker back by the jacket, and land between them with your hands out. The attacker goes down. The other person runs. It goes perfectly, and for about 4 seconds, you feel completely untouchable. Then, a second man steps out from behind a parked car with a metal pipe and hits you across the side of the head before your body moves at all. You go sideways into the wall and then down onto one knee with your hand on the ground, trying to hold yourself up. That's the thing about the spider sense. It fires when a threat is already coming directly at you. But when your attention is locked on the first person, the second one doesn't register until the pipe is already moving. You get up, both of them run, but you stand there with a line of blood running down the side of your face, learning that these powers were built to protect you from whatever is aimed at you and nothing else. A year or so passes, and the healing factor turns out to be real. Cuts close in a couple of days, bruises are gone in a week, and the gash from the pipe above your ear seals up in 4 days without a scar. For a while, this feels like the best part of the whole deal. But the spider sense is a different story, because a city the size of New York produces enough movement and sudden noise to fire it hundreds of times a day. And your body responds to every single one the same way, with your legs dropping you into a crouch or your arms coming up before you decide to move. You stop going to crowded places because you need to manage it. So lunch in the school cafeteria becomes something you get through with both hands pressed flat on the table, trying to keep your body from reacting every time a tray drops or a chair scrapes. People start noticing that you flinch at things they can't see. So you start sitting at the end of the table near the wall where there is less movement coming from behind you. Then you stop going to anything after school where a lot of people are in a small space, because an hour in a packed room leaves your whole body locked up and your hands gripping whatever is nearest. On top of all of this, swinging and climbing burns through everything your body has, so you need to eat twice as much as you used to, just to keep your legs from going weak mid-swing. Then, one afternoon, you fire a line between 2 buildings, about 18 stories up, get halfway across, and the web dissolves under you. The formula broke down faster than it should have. So you drop 4 stories before your hand catches a fire escape railing, with your other arm swinging wide below you. You hang there with the street a long way down, looking at your empty wrist cartridge. Everything about these powers has a limit. You just keep finding the edges at the worst possible time. Several years in, and a man in a set of mechanized armor starts pulling apart a bridge on the east side of the city, so you go up against him alone. The first 10 minutes go well. The spider sense fires cleanly on every swing he takes, so your body moves before his fist lands, and you get hits in between his attacks with your web lines, wrapping around his joints and pulling his arms wide. You feel untouchable for a moment, the same way you did with the pipe, right before everything goes wrong. Then he stops trying to swing at you directly and fires 3 small projectiles from different points on the armor at the same time, all coming from different angles, and your body tries to dodge all 3 at once, pulling you in 2 directions and leaving you in the middle. So one of them catches you across the ribs and sends you sideways into a concrete support column, with your shoulder taking the impact. You go down onto one knee, but you get back up, because that's what the healing factor and the durability do for you. They keep the bones from snapping under hits that would put anyone else through the floor, so you push back to your feet and go at him again. You fire a line around both his arms, plant your feet on the column behind you, and pull with everything your legs have, dragging his arms together in front of him, and then you bring the ceiling of the tunnel section down on top of him with 3 hits to the support structure. The armor goes down under the concrete and stays there. That's a win. You walk away from it, and that matters. But 3 days pass before your ribs stop grinding against each other when you move. The durability means you survive hits that should end you, but it doesn't mean you skip the part where every single one of them still goes all the way through. You just have to keep going anyway, and eventually your body closes it. The next thing you go up against might not give you 3 days to recover. More years pass, And one morning, you wake up with both your forearms hurting along the inside. You push your sleeve back to check for a cut or a bruise, but the skin looks fine on the outside, so you leave it and go about your day. Then, the next morning, the same thing happens, but worse, with a tight pressure running from your wrist up toward your elbow on both arms. So you press along the inside of your forearm with your fingers and find two small raised lines just above each wrist. 2 days later, two small openings form in the skin at those spots. This is your body continuing to change, years after the bite, still pulling itself further from what it was. The spider bite didn't finish with you on day 1. It just started there. By the end of that week, web fluid starts coming out of those openings, directly, produced by glands that have been growing inside your arms without you knowing about it. You test it on the wall, and it holds just as well as the cartridge formula, so you swap over to using it full time. For about a week, this feels like a straightforward upgrade. No more running out mid-swing. No more carrying cartridges. No more mixing fluid in your room. But then the problem shows up. The glands pull from your body to produce the fluid. So 3 long swinging sessions in a single day leaves your arms going weak, and your legs struggling to hold you up on a rooftop because your body has used its resources faster than it can replace them. You need to eat a large meal before going out, and another one after, every single time, just to keep the output stable. Then, you notice your hands in certain lighting show faint raised lines across the fingers and palms, where the grip hairs have grown denser over time, so you start wearing gloves whenever you are around other people. A doctor's exam is now something you can't do. You don't know what else is still changing under the surface, and you have no way to find out. Many years in now, and a fight with a man who generates electromagnetic pulses takes the spider sense away completely. It doesn't fade out. It just stops mid-swing. So your body goes from moving ahead of every threat to moving like any other person on the street. And without the warning, you misjudge the next line, swing too wide, and hit the side of a building at speed with your shoulder, taking the full impact. You drop 2 floors before your hands find a fire escape railing and stop you. Then you climb down the rest of the way and stand on the pavement with both arms shaking from the impact. For 4 days, the sense stays gone, and the city is a completely different place without it. You flinch at things that turn out to be nothing, because your body is used to the warning coming first. So without it, every fast movement in your direction makes your arms come up too late and wrong. You try swinging twice during those 4 days and pull back both times, because without the half-second warning, your timing on the lines is off by enough to be dangerous. So you stay on the ground and wait. Then the sense comes back on the 5th day. But it comes back wrong. Instead of firing only when something is actually close and moving toward you, it now fires at everything in range at the same level of urgency. So a man dropping his keys on the pavement 2 meters away registers the same way a thrown object aimed at your head used to. Your body drops into a crouch in the middle of a crosswalk with people walking around you, and your hands flat on the ground, trying to find the threat that isn't there. This keeps happening for weeks, and you have no way to turn it down. Your body is not something you are fully in control of. You are starting to understand that it never fully was. The spider sense has been firing at full strength for 3 weeks straight, and it is not stopping. It started during a fight near a damaged power line on a rooftop in Lower Manhattan, where a burst of radiation from the line went through you during the struggle, and the spider sense locked onto it the same way it locks onto a bullet. The problem is that the radiation is inside your body, so the warning has nowhere to send you. It just fires constantly at full intensity, the same level it used to hit in the single half second before something lethal reached you. So your body stays in that half second permanently, with your muscles locked, and your hands gripping whatever is nearest, and your legs dropping you into a crouch every few minutes on their own. You stop going outside after the first week because the sense is already at its limit, and any additional movement in your direction stacks on top of it. So you stay in your apartment with your back against the wall and your knees pulled up and your arms rigid at your sides. Then the glands start producing continuously because the spider sense keeps reading a full emergency. So the web fluid builds up in the ducts inside your forearms with nowhere to go, and over 2 days it starts hardening in place. By the 3rd week, your fingers stop opening all the way, with your hands pulling inward and the fluid calcified solid inside both forearms like concrete setting in a pipe. Your healing factor is directing everything it has toward the radiation. So there is nothing left to deal with the ducts, and your arms lock at the elbows with your hands drawn up against your chest. You end up on the floor of your apartment with your back against the wall and your body folded in on itself, trying to move and your arms not responding, with the spider sense still firing at the thing it cannot protect you from. That one spider bite started all of this, and in the end, it finishes it too.